Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish off today with a special selection, which is our one of you tell me exactly what it is you want me to check out. If you have your own song that you'd like to submit for this segment, you can find a link to do so in the description below. Today's suggestion comes at us from Cynical Matt. Hey Bryan, please react to this DØDSENGEL track. I describe the song as a dark emotional journey. So that's what we're going to look at today. It's called Evocation of Amezarak by DØDSENGEL. DØDSENGEL? Is that a hard G? I don't know. Let's get into this and see what's going on. Certainly a bit ominous here. A lot of brightness with the cymbals though, contrasting the dreariness of the reverb on the guitars. Very crisp sound versus that high reverb, a little muddy. Production on this is in a very interesting space. It's wild how how drastically different the song can feel with something as simple as changing the cymbals because of the way the production emphasizes specific sounds. A little bit of groove right here.
You will answer my invocation.
whatever symbol this is really fills up the sound sphere. It feels so much flatter here without that symbol. Bring it back, it's a very full sound. See, we have a different symbol here and it still feels rather flat. Although I think this is like up on the bell of the ride, so that actually makes sense. But even this crash symbol here, I think it's a crash. It doesn't fill out the sound as much. That tone is so... It almost feels like it's like so powerful to the point that it clips.
You know not what flowers you toy
this last 5 minutes or so have been a ride. I think I'm beginning to put my finger on why I have a difficult time clicking with black metal. Is there a bass in here? Maybe it's right alongside the bass kicks there, but I'm not hearing that definitive bass guitar timbre. A lot of half-step movements in here, providing some instability in the two guitar lines. See right here, I think we are moving through a chord progression, but it's so overshadowed by this fuzz that I'm not even sure if we're changing notes or not. Interesting. Yeah, I'm really digging those syncopated snare hits. This is the intro again, isn't it? Like those 16th note runs there. Again, I'm not sure if we're actually changing pitch on them or not, because the static, the fuzz above it, it drowns out a lot of that core timbre. Okay. So here, okay, so I want to start with the bad news like we did the other day, and we'll go into the good news, right? I think that works. I think that's a nice balance. I mentioned in the middle, I think I found out why I have such a tough time clicking with black metal. And I think the reason is that black metal just does a lot of stuff that I personally don't enjoy playing or listening to or writing. It just goes against everything that I am musically. We cover up a lot of core timbre, a lot of the notes themselves or the sounds that these instruments create for the atmosphere, right? A lot of it is that fuzz, that texture. And it gets progressively more, it leans more into the favor of the static and the fuzz the more lo-fi you get. And black metal likes to get lo-fi. So I think even some clean black metal is already kind of hurting my listenability when it comes to the way that the instruments sound. But additionally, black metal seems to work off of minimalism, and not minimalism in composition, which is a very different idea than what a lot of people attribute, but minimalism in the idea of simplicity. There's usually not a lot of layers, which makes sense given how big each of these instruments already feel. There's not a lot of complexity in the production. There's not a lot of complexity in the moment to moment. There's not a lot of complexity in the larger scheme of things, especially when we look at some of these longer, more epic black metal songs. I think it becomes more evident just how often we reuse a lot of the same, or how long we stay inside of each section. And also how similar a lot of the sections feel, at least to me. That might just be a something that I'll grow into. The more I experience and listen to black metal, maybe I will begin to form new ideas of landmarks. This is something that I did with post metal. I think it was post metal. If you go back and look at Russian Circles, I think the song was called 309. I checked it out way early in this channel's lifetime, and I recently revisited a few. I revisited it a few months ago when we did Revisiting Songs Week, and I looked at stuff that I was a bit harsh on, and the way that I heard it was drastically different. I've learned to understand what post metal does and what it is and what I should be looking for in it. My ears grew as I listened to more of this genre, and that might be something that happens with black metal. I do have a tough time finding unique elements about a lot of it. And as I mentioned, one of the things I look for is timbre, right? And timbre allows me to hear notes, and notes allow me to hear melodic movements, and melody is oftentimes how I end up grouping ideas and sort of file them away as new sections in my brain. And since I can't hear the melodies, I can't hear the timbres, all I hear is this fuzz with a percussive element to it and some screaming, I have a tough time finding things that differentiate each of these ideas. Now, in this song, I did hear a lot of different drum ideas, right? Specifically pertaining to the cymbals. I think they were extremely crisp in the production. I could point them out. I could feel when they were doing different rhythmic things. I could feel when we changed to different cymbal styles, and that affected the way I felt some of these sections. But I can't rely on a single instrument to provide me landmarks through an entire song. That's just, first of all, it's a lot of weight to put on the cymbals. But second of all, it's not fair because the other instruments are going to be doing new things. I just can't hear the new things that they're doing. And so I end up feeling like a lot of it blurs together. And maybe that is an aspect of black metal. But also because I've come around on some other genres, I also have to entertain the idea that it's just that my ears are not mature enough for this sound yet to hear the minutia or the nuance of this style and how it changes. But yeah, so just this idea that I can't really hear what's going on because of the specific sound that they achieve, and because of that, a lot of it sounds very similar. Now, I can still break this song up into, I think, like 4 or 5 sections, but that's still not a very large amount of sections for a 20-minute song. And part of that, that lack of movement, the lack of dynamic elements, the simple production and composition and structure, all of it ties together into a sound that, at least from what I can hear, what I do hear in a lot of this black metal, it goes against a lot of what I enjoy in music. And I think that's why I'm just having a real tough time coming around to it the way that I've come around to, death. Well, I guess specifically mellow death and tech death, the two. Pure death, that one's still a bit sketchy with me. or post metal. These other more extreme, harsher genres that my stance on them has flipped a bit. Um, that really hasn't happened with black metal yet. So let's let's dive into the positive stuff. We'll check out what this group's doing well. Now that I've kind of gotten that out of the way, I do want that to also act as a preface, though, because it's very possible there's going to be a lot of stuff in here that maybe more seasoned black metal listeners will pick up and say, man, that was awesome. Why didn't he talk about that? It's very possible that I didn't hear it. But we also have a 20-minute track here, and it's possible that I could have forgotten about it. It's a long, it's a lot of music to take in and remember. So, yeah, let's dive into this and look at some interesting things. First thing I want to talk about is something I've never noticed before. Very rarely does black metal calm down. And we had a section here which I believe is going to be the sacrificial event or whatever, this evocation that brought the demon Amezarak to our reality. That's kind of what I understand the story to be, right? And during this event where it seemed like the process was going underway and maybe the demon was like rising out of the symbols or like materializing or whatever, we have a single guitar playing these long whole notes by itself. And I got to hear something interesting, which is the production of their guitar tone, unfiltered, uncovered, by itself. And there are some interesting things about it. First of all, the attack sounds like I expect it to. But the decay, the lasting sound, the resonance, all of that is a bit weak. You get this real nice, aggressive attack, and then it just kind of falters, and we get this hum rather than that gritty static. And even the crackling, the static element, sort of kind of turns into a pop or a crackle and can even diminish in places where it just kind of fades out completely and we get more of that core guitar tone, and then the static fades back in, almost like it's clipping or moving outside of the compression range and being removed from the sound. And it really put an interesting perspective on this, that maybe with a lot of this black metal stuff, when they go about creating tones for their guitar, a lot of black metal is predicated on these faster playing, either eighth notes or 16th notes, and this frequent attack to create this aggressive sound. So it would make sense that when you're making your guitar tone, when you're crafting your signature tone, you're really only going to worry about what it sounds like on the attack. You're not really going to pay too much attention to the resonance or the decay, because it's very rarely that they're going to pop up in your playing. It would be like caring about resonance on a speed metal song. You're constantly tremolo picking. What does it care what the note sounds like when it gets held out? You're not gonna utilize that aspect. So it allows them to really dig into the attack properties of their sound, which might be in detriment to a resonance or a fade out, the decay on it. And I think that was in full force here. And it really, kind of puts that perspective into my mind about the process that they would go into creating their tones. But also, what it does is it allows me to hear specifically what the guitar is doing. I think this is really important because, I've always talked about with black metal, I tend to differentiate the timbre and the compression or the fuzz or the overdrive, the crackly edginess that a lot of metal guitars use. And in a lot of black metal, I say that the fuzz is above the note. we listened to an interesting black metal track. I think it was during Origins Week, where I said it was interesting because instead of them being separated, it sounded like the note was surrounded by fuzz. And that also happened here. And I wonder if it's not so much that the fuzz sits above the instrument, the timbre, if it's just that the surrounding and lower aspects of the. So imagine this is the note, right? This is what the guitar is playing. And then you put the effects on it. It's always being surrounded by the effects. But when you get the production going, you only get the top half of the note in the production, whether that's because other instruments are being played or because you're EQing elements of it or something like that. So it sounds like the fuzz, you're only getting the top half of it. So you're getting the fuzz that sits on top of it. And it feels to me like there's a separation between that static crackliness and then the note below it. And hearing it like this, isolated, it makes me wonder how many of these black metal tracks we listen to where it's not so much a separation, it's always there. It's just that the surrounding aspects are usually hidden or removed in the production. And what I end up hearing is just the fuzz above the note. Because that's always something that's, I've talked about, but I don't think I've ever said out loud, but has always confused me. Because I'm not a guitar doctor, right? I don't know how to go about crafting these tones, using pedals and amplifiers and cabinets to craft a specific sound. I know general concepts. I know about compression. I know about overdrive. I know what fuzz pedals are, right? So, and I guess fuzz pedals are actually just a type of compression, maybe? Maybe it's a type of overdrive. I don't know. Again, like I said, this is not my area of expertise, but as far as I understand it, though, you would be influencing the entirety of the sound. So it's always kind of confused me how they can kind of separate the effect from the note. Um, except, what did we check? Was that man, what was that? Was that Dodheim's guard? Or is that Paysage? I don't remember. So something we've checked out this week. Um, oh, maybe it was last week. Dude, my brain. No, it wasn't last. We didn't check out anything that was black metal last week. My brain's getting all. Oh, we did check out Agalok. No, that was too long ago. My brain's getting all weird with time. Anyways, we recently listened to a song where I felt that there was a guitar and the effect, and they were two different things. Like the fuzz was a complete different instrument from the guitar, and I thought that was very cool. But I don't think that that's what is utilized more often or most often. I think there is this idea of tying it all together like we do here because of the simplicity. There's not a lot of layering in a lot of black metal. It doesn't make sense well, I don't think you could easily achieve that sound by having two instruments, an electric guitar with all the effects on it, an electric guitar without, and allowing them to sit within each other but not really combining their sound together. So, yeah, that was just really interesting. It gave me a lot of things to think about regarding black metal and the sound of black metal and how it's created. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is before we get into the song itself, I got to give a little nod to these vocals, right? At the beginning, they just sounded like typical growls. I was like, all right, maybe not growls, just like maybe compressed cleans, maybe something in between. I don't know. And I don't think there's anything real special about them. And then after this demon arose, we had a vocal change. Same vocalist, but different style, as he gave a voice to this demon, this Amezarak. And we heard some very interesting things here. And then this continued to evolve. We heard quite a few different voices, which I think is a great way to personify an entity not from this plane. It would make sense that their vocal cords would not work similar to ours. It's, in my understanding, it's a demon of some sort, but definitely just something from another plane of existence. And the decision to give them an ever-evolving vocal style, I think was very cool and also showed off a bit of the range of the vocalist. I can't say any of it was pleasing to my ears. I think I've even might have made a few faces while listening to some of these new styles that the vocalist delivered, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's storytelling, and I think he just did a phenomenal job crafting this character and utilizing all these different vocal techniques to bring this character to life. Speaking of storytelling, though, okay, we're going to get into that in a second. We're going to get into what I think the song is doing, right? So we have a pretty basic structure. We have an intro, and then a black metal section. Again, like I said earlier, I didn't really hear any individual sections here. It could be that there weren't any. It could be that I just don't have the ear to hear the nuance, right? Then we had the isolated guitar section for the materialization of this demon. We had the next black metal section, which was the demon spouting off about how awesome they are and you don't know who you're messing with. And then we had some more extended black metal sections. There was oh man, there's that really nice layered guitar bit somewhere in there. I think it was like a minute 10, 11, 12, where we had two acoustic guitars and a syncopated drum idea. And then we finished out the song with like 7 more minutes of black metal stuff. And so I really like some of these smaller sections. I already explained one of the cool things about that first isolated guitar section, just being able to hear the guitar in isolation. But I do feel like it was a bit underwhelming. I'm going to talk about this in a bit when I get into storytelling. But I really didn't feel the energy here. I don't think a single guitar can really tell the story of the materialization of an otherworldly beast. We'll get into that though. We'll get into that. But then the next little quiet section came in like 10 minutes later, 5-10 minutes later. And I love this. We had two guitars that were doing some really nice things, playing around with each other. We have this lower end section that was kind of foundational work, which is something I have not heard at all throughout this track. A lot of what we heard in the black metal sections was pure melody. So having a foundational chord progression with a melody being played on top of that was a really nice change of pace. The shift from the really aggressive, edgy guitar tones to these nicer acoustic tones was a nice change of pace. And the drums shifting away from the rigid 8th notes and 16th notes constantly to something that was a bit more syncopated, right? We had some rests between the kicks and the snare hits, and that allowed the song to get a little bit of grooviness added into it. And I found myself more easily able to move my body and bob my head to this section than some of the other rigid aspects we saw in the other black metal sections. Absolutely love this. Like I said, fantastic change of pace, and it added in a few ideas that I can relate to and can understand more easier than the black metal stuff. But these sections were short, especially compared to the meat of the song, the black metal sections, and they were very few and far between. We just had the two of them in 20 minutes. Something I didn't talk about in my first section of things that I did not, or things that I realized I did not enjoy about black metal, is the rigidity of it. Now, I know when we were doing Groove Week, I heard a lot of opinions and a lot of experiences, perspectives from all y'all that you can find groove in unsyncopated music. And it really made me start to think about groove, because I'm pretty sure when I defined it myself, and like I said, groove is like a tricky thing to define as it is. I think it's a subjective idea to begin with. But to me, groove is syncopated ideas that create like a sort of movement in the music that your body wants to move to. Or at least that's how I typically feel groove. And when we got that syncopated idea with the bass kicks and the snare, that really made me want to move my body. But I also can't deny that I was moving my head, not necessarily in a bobbing or head banging pattern, but I was moving it in time with what was going on. And I suppose that could be interpreted as a type of groove, despite how rigid it is. However, I don't find it groovy. And especially when you have 20 minutes of this rigidity, I don't work with that. It needs to be a little looser for me to really get into it and to enjoy it. That doesn't mean that I don't think we should have any rigid sections. I love contrast. You guys know that. I think that harsher elements or types of music that I don't enjoy work well as contrast to things I do enjoy. And some of my favorite songs have sections in them that I would not listen to an entire song of, but enjoy their inclusion in the track. But having a song like this, which primarily exists on a constant flow of 8 or 16th notes that are just creating this constant rigidity, is something that I don't, it doesn't work for me, right? It's another one of those ideas of simplicity versus complexity. And that's not even to say that syncopated ideas are complex. They're just more complex than, more rhythmically complex than just a constant string of attacks. So yeah, I just wanted to include that a bit because I wanted to include it earlier, but another thing about black metal that just does not work for me. And like, it makes me wonder, can I find black metal that is groovy, melodic, with clean production? And it makes me think, I mean, maybe that's out there, but then if I heard that, would it be black metal? I've kind of taken a lot of the core characteristics from black metal out of it. And you know, at what point do we remove these elements that it stops being black metal and becomes something else? So I don't know. I'm still open to black metal. I'm never going to shut out a genre completely, but we've listened to quite a few of it on the channel and it still hasn't clicked with me. And as I'm beginning to see patterns between all these songs, I'm finding a lot of aspects that just don't work for me. And it doesn't mean I want you guys to stop requesting black metal for me. Not at all. I am always open to listen to more. But I am kind of reaching a point where I wonder if maybe this is just a genre that isn't for me, which is fine, 100%. Um, what's the next thing I want to talk about? I guess we're going to dive into storytelling here. Because the only other thing I can talk about the music is the black metal, and I mean, I've kind of explained that, right? It's a lot of growls, it's a lot of 8th and 16th attacks. There are some melody lines when you listen into the notes, and it's really interesting. I've talked about this many times before. If you get rid of the 16th note tremolo picking in the guitar and you replace it with whole notes or half notes and only change, you know, you pick a length of note depending on when the note changes. So if they're tremolo picking for 2 beats, that's a whole a half note. If they're tremolo picking for 4 beats, that's a whole note. And you replace it like that, you actually get a really interesting foundational idea going on. It's actually just the speed and the constant attacks that makes it feel more melodic than foundational. It's a really interesting way to go about doing that because it can kind of fill both roles, which is necessary because, as I mentioned, black metal kind of errs on the side of simplicity. It goes for sparseness, right? There's 2 guitars here, maybe a bass. I tried to listen in several sections and could not hear it. Maybe it's doing exactly what the guitars are doing. Maybe it's being drowned out by the bass kick, but I don't hear a bass guitar in here at all. So you have 2 instruments, and they're frequently doing the same thing. We hear this a lot in black metal, where they're both strumming the same pattern. Maybe they're doing different notes and creating harmony. Maybe they're just doubling up the effect. There's only one section in here, I think, where they were doing 2 different things, and it was at the end, and I pointed it out. I don't remember what the section was, or what it sounded like, or what they were doing, but I remember pointing it out. For the most part, though, a lot of it sounds like a single guitar. It's that simplicity, it's that sparseness, and they put a lot of oomph into that single sound in order to fill the space up. So when you go along with that sort of simplicity, you're going to want to double up or triple up as many roles as you can, and pulling a foundational idea and converting it into a melody, but also using the production to cover up some of the melodic aspects so it can still be heard foundationally is just a phenomenally genius thing to do, because you're going to get both of those ideas simultaneously out of a single idea. It's really smart. Um, so yeah, moving on to storytelling though. This song in particular, I don't want to talk about black metal in general here. I think what I'm about to say, I will probably say again, and I probably could have said about other black metal songs in the past, especially epics. I might have already the Beast of Bargist or whatever. I might have talked about this a little bit in there if I remember correctly. But I don't want it to be something taken as a blanket idea. I just want to really focus on this song right here when I say it. But I don't feel like the format lent itself well. No, the genre lent itself well to the format in this specific case. And I want to go back to the beast rising or materializing, that section with the isolated guitar. And I said I don't feel like it really brought about the weight of this event happening, right? Okay, so an argument can be made, though, that I got the story right. Assuming so, right? And if the story was portrayed, I understood what this section was about. Was it a failed attempt? I don't know. I guess it worked okay, would be a way to put it. But I do think it could have been better with layers. I do think bringing in other instruments would have helped. I do think bringing in other chord progressions would have helped. I do think bringing in harmonies would have helped. I think we could have told this story, this idea of an otherworldly beast appearing or materializing in this spot just moments away from speaking to the person who called for him to materialize, that it could have had more impact if it was more than just a solo guitar. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me on this. That's perfect. It really is. Like with a lot of stuff, I ask for other perspectives and opinions, put them in the comments. I want to start a conversation about it. But I felt very underwhelmed by this. I didn't know what this section was really doing until it was over and the next section came in, and I understood it retrospectively, right? And it's missing the storytelling aspect. And again, this could just be because of my ears, but the rest of the song also sounds very samey. The rest of the black metal sections, I feel like a lot of them could have been replaced. You could have taken the first 5 minutes and put it under the demon speaking, and I don't really think it would have changed how it felt. To me, it's just that black metal sound. I don't think there was anything going on that specifically aligned itself to the demon. And in that idea, the simplicity of black metal to me gets in the way of the storytelling, because we can't apply unique ideas to specific situations. Everything's going to come across as very similar. Or again, at least, that's how I felt with this song. So the demon didn't seem to have anything attributed to him, the Amezarak character. There wasn't anything melodically, there was no motif going on, there wasn't any atmosphere, a unique atmosphere for it, or a unique emotion in the chord progression. It was that same aggressive tremolo picking with aggressive guitaring and the noisy static in there, and double bass kicks. No different than the process of evoking the demon or whatever happened at the end. I don't really know where the story went from there because the vocals became quite indecipherable for me. Um, so it I'm not going to say that the song didn't do the story justice. I feel like there's still elements of black metal that contribute well to the story. Specifically, the emotion that I think black metal works well with is sort of bleakness, right? That is the emotion that I always kind of get out of it. I've mentioned a couple of times where the static elements of black metal kind of gives me that black and white snow from from uh, from like old TVs, and it gives me this black and white feeling. It every black metal song I hear, I visualize a monochromatic scene, right? And it creates this bleak element, helplessness, hopelessness, especially when we don't have strong melodic ideas. Unlike with, I think it was Paysage actually, Paysage Diver. I mentioned there's a lot of positivity and hopefulness in the melody line. That is, at least in my experience, atypical for black metal, and they tend to have more of this depressive, dark kind of element to their atmosphere, and that dark bleakness works well for a demonic ritual to summon this otherworldly beast into our realm. So the atmosphere is right for it, but the simplicity, I think, is not. I think there needs to be more nuance, more complexity, more contrast to tell a story like this. At least for me, we can retain those atmospheric elements to an extent in a different genre or in a different sound, I suppose. Not a different genre, a different sound. So I don't want to say that I think this story could have been told better outside of black metal, but I think it would have been told more. And see, here's where I'm going to get myself in a bit of a twist. I think it would have been told more traditionally, with leitmotif and assigning emotions to characters and stuff like that, which is it's classical, right? That tends to be something that classical music utilizes, or even like epic metal, or classical metal, symphonic metal. That's the word I'm looking for. Bands that utilize a lot of layers and wide production techniques, and even proggier stuff where we're going to include different chord progressions and even some spicier chords to help elevate some of these sections. And that none of that's what black metal is about. So I don't really want to say it would be better, but I think the thing is I would appreciate it more because I would have a better understanding of how the music was tying into the story. I think that's the best way to put it. And because that places a bit of subjectivity to it. I don't want it to be an objective statement that I think that black metal did not do the song justice, but that I would have enjoyed it more with some different elements that run counter to what I believe black metal is about. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Like I said, that includes a lot of subjectivity to it that I think plays both sides fairly and still gives some credit to DØDSENGEL for doing what they did. Which, like I said, I still think that it came across fairly well as far as emotion and atmosphere. Um, I'm gonna dive into. Geez, it's already an hour in. I'm gonna dive into some lyrics here, and come out the other side and see what's going on. Well, that did not take a long time to read at all. It is pretty much on the nose about it, and it's exactly what I thought it was. Although I did not know who Amezarak is. Apparently, that is one of the names for Lucifer. But yeah, we go through the evocation as it is. Says that I want you to come forth, calling Lucifer, Satan, the devil, Raziel, Amezarak, all these names. Come forth and show yourself to me. And then there's some interesting occult sort of syllables that get said. Maybe it is a language or something, but it's not English like the rest of the song is. And then we have Lucifer appearing and speaking these things. Who are you to call me? You don't know what power you toy with. And he just continues to just boast how how powerful he is, and then says, "Cower before your Messiah and bear witness to this prophecy. Gebura the dagger will sever the ties between the cosmos. All shall embrace the utter spiritual void that is Doth." So, I mean, that's pretty much it. This dude summons Lucifer. He appears. He says, "Bro, I'm awesome. Cower before me. This is my plan." And that's the song. So, yeah, I think I've already, I was pretty spot on with my with what I thought the song was about lyrically. And I've already spoken about how it works with the music, or in my case, I kind of think that it doesn't work well with the music, but it does, it adds elements to it, even if they're not elements that I particularly look for in something a bit more narrative like this. So we're going to wrap this guy up. Those are my thoughts on DØDSENGEL's Evocation of Amezarak. If you're still here an hour in, I mean, thank you. Leave some comments. There's a lot of questions I asked. I also made some observations about black metal in general. I made some observations about the genre's role in the storytelling. I'm sure I've said some controversial things. Let me know your side of it. Like I said, just what's that word? Be respectful. Like I said, I'm open to conversation. I understand that I have a very flawed understanding of this genre as a whole, right? I don't have a very mature ear for this sound as it stands, and it also, as I explained, kind of goes against a lot of what I enjoy in music. So just let me know how you view this music, how you enjoy it, anything in here that I missed because I just don't have the ear for it, and I'm open to engage in conversation and learn as well, right? Above the comment section, there's a description box, and there's a link for Linktree. You can join the Patreon and vote on future themes and songs. You can pick up some merch, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord community, and chat with me there. I'm very active in the server. You can do a bunch of stuff. Special selections. You can submit your own special selection from here. There's a lot of buttons in there. Go ahead and check it out. I'm sure there's something that'll interest you. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. Man, that is a long video. I feel like my times on these videos has just exponentially grown. I remember when a 20-minute song I'd get like 40, 45 minutes out of. 5-minute songs were like a 15-minute video, and now it seems like I can't even get under the 40-minute mark anymore. Anyways, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're going to see our penultimate deep cuts and look at our final special selection for the week. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos. Why didn't that work?